Aha! Hey there, it's good to see you all again. What's going on? It's me, that guy, that Carpo guy sitting in his living room, still making videos after all these years. And I'd like to share something I've learned through all these videos I've made and all the videos I've watched. That we live in some strange times right now. There was a time in the past when people would be perhaps concerned with, you know, real world issues. Perhaps they fear war or death or violence. Maybe they live in a war torn region. But today we're able to worry about not only things that will probably never affect us, but worry about things that affect other people that we'll never meet and that we have never met, and places that we've never been to that really have no relevance to us. So there's part of the population that is constantly concerned about the ongoings of the world. And it's hard not to get wrapped up in that. There's another side of that. A lot of people who have absolutely no clue, who are completely ignorant to anything going on in the world. People who just go down and get the latest iPhone or Gucci bag and they're good to go. They don't care about what's happening in the quote real world, even when that real world affects them directly. But really, this video is more about the potential for a major cataclysm, which is something that there are some YouTube channels that's all they talk about. And then there are others that have this idea of this utopian future where everything's going to be just fine and we're going to get out of all our problems as a society. The reality is, the truth is somewhere in the middle, in my belief, and I'm not a prophet, no one is, but we can look at data. I do follow a particular channel, Suspicious Observer, who over the years has provided a lot of great information regarding the sun and space in general, solar weather, things like this. And he's done a series on this 12,000 year cycle, which something I researched like a couple decades ago. So it's this 12,500 year cycle of upheaval on the earth that has to do with the sun and these longer seasons. So we have the spinning of the earth on a daily cycle, then we have the yearly cycle, but we also have these longer cycles. There's, I believe, a 72,000 year cycle as well. Things that we have never experienced as human beings. As a society, we really have no clue how this operates. All we can do is look at the data through core samples and layers in the earth. So they can look at a certain layer, determine how old that layer is, and then find that perhaps it's irradiated or different from the surrounding soil. By doing this, they can go back through at least several thousand years of history and see that we've been through some major cataclysms. That the more you look into this, the more you realize that Noah's flood, as the story, was probably a true story, just not as biblical scholars, as you call them that. I kind of laugh at that idea because it's really a Bible. It's just several books compiled over several centuries. And it's not, I don't believe, a coherent, organized Word of God personally. But I do believe that many of the stories in there bear some resemblance or relevance to what has happened in the past. And the flood would be, this is something that could actually happen very quickly with the melting of glaciers. And after the last ice age, this could have easily happened and flooded out a lot of the shorelines, which is where 90% of the people live because that's where the food is. So when you start looking at it through that lens, you start realizing that, okay, the earth goes through big cycles. But does that matter to us as a society today? Even though things seem so intense, so fast-paced, that it seems like at the same time, life is so long, something's bound to happen. From the time I was young, I've always believed that sometime in my life there's going to be a major cataclysm. I don't know why I believe this or feel this, I just always have. And that in the back of my mind, I've always felt I need to be prepared for anything that happens. And if something does go down, take up a leadership role and try to push forward. In other words, even though I can live in this current society and I can function work a job, have a family and a home. If the shit hits the fan tomorrow, I mean, the lights go out, which is something that could happen so quickly that you wouldn't even realize what is coming. I mean, the Carrington event in 1859 was a major solar storm, which you could see the aurora all the way down to like southern states, like I think Florida and some of these islands, where you could see the aurora because there was such an intense reaction to that solar wind after the CME, which is a coronal mass ejection. But that lit telegraph lines on fire and started fires inside telegraph stations. And after that, the ground current was so strong, they were actually able to send telegraph signals without even hooking up to batteries because it was this long lasting current. Back then, all they had was telegraph lines. They didn't even have power lines yet. So if this were to happen today, 160, 180 years later, it would be curtains. I mean, if a solar storm like that one happened, we'd be screwed. And statistically, historically, they happen about every 100 years or 150 years, whatever it might be. We're overdue. So these aren't fear-mongering tactics or, paranoid rantings. These are just things to be aware of and concerned about because we rely on electricity so much that if the lights went out tomorrow, most people wouldn't have a clue what to do. Most people don't have a generator. Most people don't have extra fuel of some sort. Most people don't even have a basic food supply for even 72 hours. And the average person in America doesn't even have enough money to stock up on these things. But the thing is, even if we did, we wouldn't. Because it's much more important to go out and buy that Gucci bag or that latest iPhone. And that's what I'm getting at by bringing that up at the beginning. We spend money on stupid things. And we are so preoccupied and wrapped up in what society thinks and our little trivialities of maybe being slighted by someone or feeling like somebody treated us badly. But Earth doesn't give a shit. And when things go bad, they go bad quickly. What we're seeing right now is the very tip of a societal decline, in my opinion. I'm not making that claim as fact. But I believe in the attitudes and behaviors I've seen of people, let's say in my own nation, the USA, which was considered to be, the land of the free, home of the brave, right? Innovation, we create so many amazing things, and yeah, we're still innovators, but it's not about nationality. It's about that fact that we, even having a nation where we are free to do what we choose for the most part, and to create things and to invent things, we're doing nothing. I've seen interviews with college kids today where they don't even know answers to basic questions. Like really basic questions. Things that just come rolling right off the tongue, the answer, but things about history, things about the true fears and dangers that we actually face. Like folks just aren't aware. And so part of me says that's a good thing. Because we have to live our lives, and some people cannot live with that fear of the unknown. I have friends who don't want to hear me talk about the what ifs. They're not interested in that. It actually stresses them out. And I respect that. I don't talk about it very often, but there was a time in history, at least about 10 years ago, when I was really kind of on the apocalypse train. And I was consistently talking about, not just a solar flare, but even one major volcanic eruption could, cool the atmosphere or put us into a, quote, nuclear winter, be more like a volcanic winter. But there are so many things that could happen. The thing that actually is most likely to happen is the thing that we will never think about. So many asteroids go flying past the Earth that we just noticed at the last minute and didn't even realize it was there. Depends on which direction it's coming from. If an asteroid was hurtling right at Earth from the direction of the sun, we wouldn't see it until it's right on us. And at that point, it's too late. There's nothing you could do anyway. So I'm not sitting here going, oh my God, we should be looking to the sky is falling and we're screwed. But maybe, just maybe, as individuals, as human beings, we can take a lesson from the past and put just a little bit of our income, time, savings, effort into not just buying things, but educating ourselves, a couple solar panels here, you know, an extra can of propane there. Some of those 5-gallon buckets of food you get from Winco or whatever for like $150, $100. I don't even know if they still have those, but I have several of them, and I say, you know, if things get bad, at least I can last a little while to get myself back on track. And I'm obligated to protect my family, so I have to have these things. But I definitely don't have enough, and you know, there are folks, of course, who are over the top. You know, thousands of rounds of ammo, and I'm like, you can't eat bullets, okay? You know, it really, I think it gives people a very grim view of how people actually behave in a disaster. But when the disaster is ongoing, those behaviors change. In other words, in a short-term major disaster, when people know that they can recover, they will help each other. They will risk their own lives to save others and pull people out of floods and fires. But when things get really bad and people start to lose trust and faith in each other, that goes out the window. And that's what's scary, because I feel like we're already at that point right now. How many times have you seen somebody get hurt and all you see is the videos from everybody filming with their cell phone, nobody leaning in to help them or do anything? It's the bystander effect, always expecting someone else to deal with the stuff and somebody else to help the people that need help. And so I have a lot of mixed feelings about human nature and human beings. I just wanted to share some ideas about, you know, I guess the point of this would be that we're so preoccupied with so many silly, you know, illusions of what it means to be human and this consumer society we have that, you know, a lot of us we'll have to actually bail those people out when the shit gets bad. And a lot of us won't. And a lot of people won't be able to help everyone that needs help if something happens. I think we should all want to. We should all want to help each other. We should all want to treat each other with dignity and respect and trust. But the reality is that through the internet and society in general, the way we've been acting these days, we're setting this precedent that people aren't worth caring about. We have an illusion that people around the world are evil or mean or this group or that group is out to get us. And because of this, if the lights went out tomorrow, a lot of people would hang on to this belief. If you haven't been exposed to good people, then you're going to think the world's bad. And I really want to trust people. Even though I've had my car stolen from my driveway and I've had people rob me, what do? You know, you can't select those negative attributes and assume all people have it. Just like you can't assume that there's an apocalypse coming tomorrow and you better prepare and don't worry about this life. Because there was a time in my life where I was so obsessed with, you know, the shit hitting the fan that I really just said, well, what's the point in doing anything? And that's when, years later, analyzing that, I realized I was using it as an excuse to not make big changes or big risks, not start a big business or go back to college or something, you know. It's like, no, everything's going to fall apart anyway. And that was a crutch. And I realized I'm not the only one who probably uses that crutch. And I think a lot of folks fall into the kind of the apocalyptic / conspiracy realm because it gives them something to feel, you know, something to be excited about. Even that negative energy or fear can be mistaken as something positive. And maybe it is for some people. What do I know? I'm just a guy in my living room talking about solar flares. Talk to y'all next time. Peace out.